up? What's up? What's up, everyone? We are live once again, and yeah, just come on and say hi on the chat so that I know that there's some people coming in. It's always nice to see some familiar faces too. So nice seeing some people starting to tune in. I'm pretty happy to be sharing some stuff in this one. This one's gonna be a fun one. We're gonna be talking about transitions, and we're gonna be jumping right into it very soon. I'm just gonna allow some time for some people to come in. Uh, Nice. Hi, Paul. Hi, Ashraf. I'm so bad with names. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're gonna be starting very very soon. I also have a new logo that I'm gonna show you guys that I made just today. Actually, I prepared all of this stream today just because things have been really crazy with the editing workshop. I am going to be posting the third episode tomorrow, and I've been pretty much just caught up in that, which is it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work getting those things ready and polished with all the information that they need to have, the research and all that stuff. So they've been taking quite a bit of time. So, but hopefully, even though I did only spend today organizing this stream, hopefully it doesn't look too unorganized, and hopefully you will get some good information out of this. I'm pretty excited. I'm going to be showing you some of my my tricks and some of my like secrets for some good transitions and all of that. Moit says hi. Hello, everyone. Murad says what's up. Hello, hello. So yeah, I'm going to be showing you a few things that I use, a few packs that I use, and also the way in which I use them right inside of Premiere. So that's something that we are going to talk about specifically is transitions in Premiere Pro, which is something that is fairly new. I mean, not transitions, but if you think of more of the seamless and the really fancy transitions that you normally see in After Effects, now some of those kind of fancier and more complex transitions are finally starting to appear in Premiere Pro. And I got my hands on one of the packs, one of the only packs that I know of that can do that in Premiere. So I'm pretty excited to be sharing that with you guys and showing you a little bit of how I use that in some of my projects. Now, there was one example that I want to load up real quick as we have people wait. Oh, I can't load things up just yet. Okay. See, that's the thing. I had a whole promo ready, but I can't add it just because we're live. So I'm gonna try to figure that out once we finish the tutorial segment. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. Sorry if it seems a little unorganized. It's kind of a little bit last minute, but here is the new logo. I'm going to show you that in just a second. And we're talking about transitions right inside of Premiere Pro. So hey, my name is Chris Trini for Kriscoart. For those of you just tuning in now, that was the new logo. I just wanted to make it a little bit different from the main videos just because you know, these are some live streams, and I just want to make sure that people understand the difference. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to be jumping into all of this. I might do a breakdown of that logo. I don't know if you guys are interested. Let me know in the chat if you want to see that, or in the comments down below if you're watching this as a playback, and I can make a little bit of a breakdown of that. So yeah, so I guess what I'm going to do first, I'm going to jump in to the tutorial side of it, and then we can talk a little bit about the why I choose to do certain things and some of the uses that you can get generally out of transitions. So let's jump right into the tutorial, and I'm just going to open up my timeline, and you guys can follow along and see how I used this new transition pack. So I mentioned a few packs in the beginning, and I'm just going to start to use one of the first ones that I'm now starting to use a lot because it just works right inside of Premiere. So let's just go ahead and import that to get started. So I'm going to go under File, Import, and right here we have Action Transition. So all I have to do is select the project file for that and hit on Import. Now I'm going to import the entire project. We can create a folder for the imported items. And yeah, we don't need to worry about any of this other stuff. So let's click OK. So we can see that we have a new folder created called Action Transitions. It's located in media for some reason. I don't know why, but we can go ahead and find that. Not sure why this is happening, but in case this is happening to you, you can go and find them in the folder that should be provided with the rest of this transition pack. And there we go. Now we have everything. So let's go ahead and explore the contents of this and see what we're working with. So we have 2 different sequences with basic transitions and advanced transitions. And then we have all the individual transitions in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under advanced transitions, and we're going to open up that sequence so that we can see all the transitions that are inside of the advanced transition sequence. And obviously we're going to over exaggerate our use of transitions way more than what I would ever use for something like this or really anything. But we're talking about transitions, and since there are some very distinct camera movements already present in some of these shots, I think it's a good case study to see what kind of transitions we can use and when to place them. So before we jump into all of that, I'm actually going to add a little bit of additional movement, some subtle camera movement here with some keyframes in some of these shots, which is, by the way, everything that we're talking about today is going to be in tomorrow's workshop episode. So I'm really excited for that episode. It has a lot of packed information, and because of that, I felt it was a good idea to kind of include some more detailed look at some of the things that I was talking about, in these sort of live streams, which is cool because then we can talk about it. If you have any questions, we can have that sort of interaction live. So I've set some keyframes for the position and scale right at the beginning of the clip, and I'm going to go to about maybe 117, something like that, and I'm just going to make sure that I reposition this frame so that my point of focus is this dial kind of starting to move. Let's make sure that these keyframes are right at the end of our clip. Same with the beginning ones. So now if I play this, nice, we have that sort of moving in shot. And what I'm going to do here is with this one, I'm also going to do some scaling up, so that we go towards this bird over here, as well as these gears. There's not a cut in here because this is just part of a project. So some of these cuts are already in the actual video that I just chopped up. Some more for this example. So let's see what this looks like for now. So there we go. I've added some basic scale animation for this clip and for this clip. So already we're getting somewhere. It's having sort of a flow of it actually physically moving in towards it. But let's take this a step further and let's add some transition over these cuts to glue these pieces together even more. I'm gonna go under the advanced transitions that we imported, and I'm going to go under the flight category since I know that I'm going from something that's on the ground to something that's on the sky. And here we have this very cool moment where we see this kind of shoot up towards the sky. I think this is going to work really well with our example. So what I'm going to do to actually apply this transition onto our clips is I'm going to selection grab these clips. I'm going to hit Command C or Control C if you're on a PC. I'm going to go back onto my main sequence. And then in here, you see that we have video 2 selected. You want to make sure that is selected and not video 1, because if you were to paste something in here now, it's going to overwrite whatever is on video 1 on that track. So we want to select video 2, make sure that video 1 is unselected, and then we're just going to hit paste. And I'm going to drag this so that the cuts in between these 2 placeholders and this sort of marker is aligned exactly with the cut that I want the transition to happen on. So right now, if I go over it, we're not seeing much. We're still seeing the example clips, and that's because we need to replace the default images that are inside these placeholders with our clips. So I'm going to hit C on my keyboard, and that's going to bring up the razor tool. You can see that changed now from a selection tool to a razor tool. And I'm going to click right here at the beginning. You can see that it snaps nicely, and I'll do the same thing and make a cut for the end. If things aren't snapping around for you, you want to make sure that you have this icon selected. It's the snap icon. You can hit S on your keyboard, and that activates or deactivates snapping. So now that I have these 2 separated, I'm going to hit Command C on this first clip, double click on this first placeholder, go to the beginning of my timeline, and hit Command V to paste my selection. So now we have our first clip inserted in here. I'm going to go back to our main sequence. I'm going to grab the other second half of the transition. I'm going to go in the second placeholder, and then same thing, I'm going to hit Command V and paste that in there. So now we have the bird. So let's go back to our first sequence. It takes just a second to load in between the sequences, just because it's loading all those preview files again, depending on which sequence you're on. So just be a little patient with that, but there we go. Now we have our transition, which goes from our dial moving over here all the way into the sky. I can go frame by frame so we can see what is happening. You do see another, the mirrored version of the bird, and that's just how the transition works. It kind of mirrors in order to compensate for the missing space. So that's something to keep in mind. Usually it happens so fast that you can't really tell unless you have a very plain background like in this case. But it doesn't bother me because there could be more than one bird in the sky, and that still makes sense to me. So that's pretty much a basic overview on those transitions. Also, I just realized something. I don't know if you guys clicked on this video with the wrong title. I might have left the title from the previous episode, but yeah, hopefully it's clear by now that we're talking about transitions. So anyways, that was a little bit on this pack, and I'm going to show you this pack right now, actually, so I can give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. So the pack that I used for this, let's see. There we go. It's this Action Transitions. This is a new pack that I just discovered now, and I just wanted to share it with you guys because, I mean, you saw what it does. It's pretty legit. It really adds a lot of those nice dynamic visuals that people are saying audio is low. Can you hear me better now? Maybe now? How about now? Probably the same. Yeah, the tutorial section might have been a little bit loud. People are saying crank up the audio. Can you really not hear me that well? I think it's meter wise I seem fine. Oh, okay, there we go. I think right now that's a little bit better. Okay, cool. Sorry guys. Again, this was kind of a miracle that this stream is happening right now because of everything else that's going on with the main videos. But hopefully you guys can have a little bit of patience and bear with me a little bit just because it's yeah, it's been one thing after the next. So this is the pack that I'm using. You can see, you saw what it does. It's pretty amazing. One pack that I've used a ton and that you've seen probably by a lot of other YouTubers is this other transition pack, which I highly recommend if you're thinking of jumping into After Effects and doing some more fine-tuned work in there, then this is the main one that I use all the time. And by the way, guys, you can find all of these things that I'm mentioning in the description. And yeah, I just wanted to share this other new pack, this Action Transitions pack, just because this works directly into Premiere. You don't have to dynamic link into After Effects. But you saw the steps. If you think it's not worth it and you think you still want to go into After Effects and do the transitions in there, then I would recommend this one. So I'm posting both in the description down below. But I want to quickly jump into Premiere, and I want to talk a little bit more about other transitions that you might have seen in this video. Which, speaking of which, now I might have loaded up the promo video that I did for this, so hopefully I can share that with you guys, so that you can see a little bit of the full completed piece, and we can have a better idea of what we're talking about. Okay, great. It's still not loading. It looks like you will have to follow me on Instagram, and eventually I'll have to post it there. I'm sorry. I thought it would have been loaded, but yeah. Let's continue on, and let me just show you a little bit of overlay transitions that you can do inside of Premiere. So this is the first part that we saw with the dial going onto the bird, and again, I wish I could show you a full playback with that promo video, but it's not loading up. So there's a few other moments that you're going to see in that promo video eventually once I'm able to post it, where there's these kind of flares that come in, and they sort of make the seam or the cut kind of glue together and flow a little bit better. There's another example here. We're having this character kind of thinking about a past love or whatever is happening here, and then we go into this sort of like flashback type of vibe. Now, this is another transition where it almost looks like a fade to white, and we use that midpoint of this flare as a way of going from this cut to this cut. So this is from an anamorphic flare pack, and you can see that it's very simple. I didn't even have to add anything else other than just dropping this in. I sped it up a little bit to 250%, so it's more of a flash. It's quicker. And then under the effects controls panel, I just set this to screen. And what that does is essentially it's a blending mode, and it allows you to pretty much take out some of the blacks and leave more of the highlight part of the image to be overlaid over these clips. So you can see that if I turn this off, this is what the clip looks like without the transition. So it's just a hard cut into this, which I honestly prefer. Like I said in the tutorial section, I'm overdoing these quite a bit just because we are talking about transitions. But if I turn this on, now we see these kind of flares, and they're flashing at us, and we're moving into this this flashback type of sequence. And there we go. One thing that I'm going to try to do, since we are screen sharing this, I'm just going to show you the promo through QuickTime. Not the best, but it'll do. And at least you can get an idea of what this sequence looks like. So that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah. So that's pretty much. You get the main gist. I mean, you might not have the best sound quality because it's playing off the speakers, but at least you saw the transitions happening. So that was that first moment with the dial, then going up to the bird, and then again you saw kind of the use of the transition pack as well as the overlays placed on top of each other. And if you combine both of them, you can see how we have this kind of seamless motion goes up to this bird, but there's also this lens flare, which is a nice way of tying kind of the ground element, and then we're shooting up towards the sky, and it's almost like we're having light refract in that moment. So it really ties all of that together. And so I just saw a question from Jolt Central. I have handy seamless transitions. Is it possible to use this in Premiere? Now, if you have this one that I mentioned earlier, you can only use it in After Effects. If you are in Premiere, you have to dynamic link into After Effects to use this. And honestly, it's not too much of a hassle. I actually prefer to do it this way sometimes. If I want to stay in Premiere, then that's why I'm talking about this specific pack, because this was just announced. In the Envato Marketplace, they actually just opened up a section for Premiere Pro, and they have a ton of stuff in there just specifically made for Premiere. And I think this is all happening because Premiere is starting to become very advanced. It's starting to have a lot of features that would only be possible in After Effects. So because of these new updates, now there's new packs coming out that that are starting to really take advantage of that. So that's what this pack is for. This one is specific to Premiere, but again, if you want to have that workaround and still use this pack, which I still highly recommend. I mean, this has a lot more options too in terms of like glitches and other camera movements. So this is still kind of the better one, but and you can use it in a very similar way to what I showed you. But if you are going in Premiere, then this is the way to go. So jumping back in, we saw this sort of moment, and then with the bird part, one thing that I want to mention, well, this is not the bird. Let me go to the beginning. Okay, so one thing that you kind of need to keep in mind whenever you're doing these kind of transitions and these overlays that you're setting on is you want the brightest point to be right where the cut is. So usually these kind of light leaks and all this, it's you have this kind of swelling up, and it reaches a peak and then it kind of fades after that point. So you want that peak, that in brightness. You can see how we reach that sort of glare moment right there, and that kind of helps glue the cut together. Even though there isn't a cut here and we're still using that transition pack to give us this like fake movement onto the bird, having that added overlay on top of everything really helps smooth this out. So that's why I really want to show you this example, is because you don't have to be limited to just throwing a transition effect on there and then that's it. You can take it so many steps further by adding some overlays on it, by being conscious about how you're using it, which we're going to talk about in just a second. And then sound. Sound is also going to be the thing that really ties everything together. I've linked in the description a place where you can find a bunch of sounds that I used for this example and many other work where there's this really cool swishes and epic sound designs and all that. So I'll post that in the description as well for you guys to find that. And yeah, I just wanted to share these resources because I use them a lot. I get asked about this a lot. And I just want to have these live streams as an opportunity to really just, put my cards on the table and be like, this is what I use and this is how I use it. So here we can see there's another example of a flare overlay where we see the peak going from here to here. And another way to make sure that you're hitting the peak at the exact cut is by using a cross dissolve in Premiere. So you can see how the cross dissolve kind of goes, it goes up and it ends right where the cut is. So we have this kind of fading up, reaches the peak in brightness, and then it fades back down as we are introduced to the following clip. So that is essentially most of what went on in this sequence. You can see that, let me just hit the tilde key while over my sequence. You can see that there's quite a bit of sounds that support a lot of these transitions. A lot of these moments are carried through. Google links in the description aren't working. Uh-oh. Not sure. I'm going to have to check on that once the live stream is done. Let me know if anyone else is having that problem live. Obviously, if you're watching this in playback, hopefully I will have figured it out by then. Nice. Does 4K workflow matter? I mean, do we really need 4K to shoot these days? Says Mohit. I hope I said that right. 4K is always handy, especially when you saw some of the things in the tutorial section earlier on where I could actually zoom in and even kind of highlight some of these transitions. If we're doing like a punch in or like a quick zoom in as a transition, it could be nice to have a little bit of a subtle zoom before that, like a slight punch in through keyframes in Premiere that leads up to that additional zoom. So it's like we have our image and it's slowly scaling up in Premiere, and then we have the transition that really takes it to the next shot. So having 4K for that, then oh, same problem, says Gordon with the links. Okay. So yeah, we're having some problems with the links. I'm not sure what's happening, but hopefully I will have that figured out. And if you come back and watch the video, you will be able to see the links, hopefully, and get the stuff that I'm talking about and use it yourself. Hopefully, if this all gets resolved. So, all right, so that's pretty much all of the visual side that I wanted to show you. There are a few things in audio that we're going to touch on in the next live stream. I want to spend a little bit of time breaking down some of the sound design for this specific piece, and hopefully by then you can actually see it and hear it the proper way and not just me playing it back on a QuickTime file. But yeah, that's going to be for next time. For this one, I just wanted to introduce these new ways of creating these transitions visually, because I'm seeing them all over the internet, and they look really cool, and I wanted to share them with you because they are everywhere. They look cool, but you shouldn't use them just because they look cool. Let me go back to the main camera to drive this point home even more. you need to be very mindful about how you use these transitions. You shouldn't just place them, because it just makes the edit feel like a cool edit, and you just want to add a bunch of energy and you don't know how to add energy, so you're just throwing all these transitions. That's something you need to be very mindful of, because if you overdo it or if you misuse it, it's kind of like a trick that loses a lot of its value if it's not done the right way. Kind of like saying a joke at a funeral. You might have a really good joke, but the setting of it really matters too. Um, so yeah, so that's what I mean by being mindful about it. There's a few moments where I actually, let me share back Premiere so I can show you one specific moment that I'm thinking about, and it is the. Let me exit out of this. There's okay, so in this one we're gonna have to go frame by frame, but you're gonna get the idea. So over here we have this kind of like warpy transition, really trippy, and it goes into this tree moment. Let me play it on the QuickTime file so we can get a smooth playback of that. So this is the moment right before we have all this momentum building up. And boom, we have the transition. Now, this, the reason why I think this works, and the reason why I use this transition in this specific spot, is because we're playing a lot with rotation. Now, we have some physical objects in our scene that are rotating, such as these blades, so they're kind of spinning. And we're also spinning into the shot. What I did for this one is I animated the scale, the position, and the rotation. So we are scaling into the shot. We're positioning our frame so that we're scaling towards the blades. And as we're doing so, we're also rotating. So once we reach this peak and we're like almost inside the blades, everything gets skewed. And then we get introduced to this shot, which also has some rotation in it. You can see that the trees that have this double exposure effect over our subject are rotating in the background. So it not only carries over some of the ideas that we introduced in the previous clip, it also carries over the actual movement of the transition. So that's why this works. It could still work if you have two static clips or whatever the case may be. You could still, make it work with the transition, but it's not gonna. The effect of it is not gonna just sell itself as well. It's not gonna be as powerful as when you have a shot that lends itself specifically for that. So there we go. This is the weirdest live stream I've done. This is like worse than my first one. I'm seeing like random things happening on the YouTube page. Hopefully you guys are still with me. I'm sorry for all these technical difficulties right now, but hopefully we'll get past it, and hopefully the information is clear anyways. Yeah. People keep saying links don't work. I'm sorry. I know. I don't know how to fix that unless putting them in the chat. Maybe I'll have to figure that out once we get to the Q&A section. So yeah, there's a lot of other stuff that I wanted to cover, but yeah, I think we're almost at 30 minutes. Things kind of took a little bit longer than I expected just because of all these problems. But I will talk about them in the next live stream. There's a few things that I wanted to mention as far as how you can even use cuts as a way of transitioning into scenes, into moments. And what I mean by cuts is using something like J cuts, L cuts, smash cuts, match cuts, all of those kind of cuts that don't require any transitions. It's just literally knowing when to cut the clip, which could be a topic on its own. So I guess it's good that we can save it for another live stream, because it is a juicy topic, and hopefully by then I'll have some time to prep, and I can even show you some movie examples, which that might violate some more terms of service with YouTube. So I don't know if that was the issue with the links, but I don't know. We'll see. Jolt Central says, all good, man. This is very informative. Keep jamming it up. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad it's not entirely all over the place, which it is. But this is all because of the main workshop episodes. So hopefully you guys are enjoying those, because they are really a lot of work. And yeah, they just been nonstop, like waking up at 5, going to sleep at like sometimes even midnight or 1 when we're filming them. They're pretty intense. But I'm seeing the feedback and all of that, and you guys seem to be really enjoying them. So I'm really grateful for that. So yeah, I'll post the links once this is all said and done. This is the anamorphic pack that I forgot to mention. This is what I've been using as far as the flares, and I will definitely make sure to figure out a way to get these things to you guys because yeah, they're pretty solid packs that I've used time and time again. So speaking of giving stuff to you guys, I gave you, this was the first pack, the first free pack that I gave you. It was a free grunge paint texture pack. I sent out a second one, and I was supposed to send out a third one last week, but again, things got really crazy. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to make a mega pack. Well, not that mega. It'll have a lot of stuff, more than usual. It's going to have a few extra images and textures that you guys can use for motion graphics or whatever you want. And if you want to get this stuff for free, and this is I'm gonna start to make this exclusive only to people that watch the live stream until the end, or that watch the live stream in general. So for now, this is an open list. It's a VIP list where people get free stuff that I send out every week, or that I try to send out every week. So definitely sign up by going to kriscoart.com/free, or you can find a link in the description if that works. I don't know if that works or not because links apparently are not working. You know why I think they're not working? I think it's because I forgot to change the title of the live stream. So YouTube might be thinking that I'm trying to redo this. I don't know what's happening. YouTube is crazy sometimes. It goes on crazy little rants, and YouTube does whatever YouTube wants. But yeah, if this link in the description for this giveaway doesn't work, you can always go on kriscoart.com/free. That I know that works. So you can sign up for this kind of newsletter that I'm starting to build, and where I'm just sharing free stuff on there. So nice. I think that covers most of it. I want to jump on the chat real quick, give the chat some love because you guys have had a lot of patience with me today. This was one of the rougher ones, and but yeah, I appreciate all the support that you guys are giving me with the videos and everything. Like I said, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of stress. It's a lot of life that I'm not living because I'm doing all these videos, but it's all worth it because I always, it just feels good to be able to share some of the things that I'm learning, and especially from looking back at some of these projects that I've shot over the past couple of years, some of the client work. That's what I'm doing with these workshops is I'm essentially like giving you all of the little tips, all the things that I've learned that I've used along the way to make these projects as good as they can be, and I'm trying to share that with you in the in the workshops and whenever I can, and whenever things are not falling apart in in the live streams as well. So all right, I think I'm gonna open up to some questions. Freddie Bays says, "Hey Chris, how long a transition need to be in between segments?" That all depends. For the specific pack, it needs to be the same exact length as those placeholders. And you can, there's some ways around it, but it gets a little tricky in Premiere, which is why I really recommend also getting the transition pack for After Effects, because you have a lot more control. You can actually pick the directions and how fast they go. Oye, oyehu, oyoe asks, do you think some transitions are overdone? Yeah, honestly, all transitions are overdone. No, I'm kidding. I think if you go on YouTube and you look at people that use transitions, yeah, they tend to overdo it quite a bit, especially the vloggers. Because the vloggers are thinking of story, some of them, but the main thing that all the vloggers and honestly most YouTubers are thinking of is, how do I grab your attention? How do I keep throwing things at you that can keep you watching the video? And it's because of the algorithm, it's because of how people's attention span work. But YouTubers, especially filmmaking YouTubers, are very aware of that. So in their edits, they'll throw a ton of transitions. And you know the caveat to all it starts to lose its effect once you use it too many times. So that's why I'm thinking in terms of what does the shot have to offer? How can I elevate the shot, and how can I really support the story that I'm trying to tell, the feel that I'm trying to express? These are all things. These are kind of these mental checklists that you should have whenever you're thinking of applying a transition. If you're adding a dissolve, that has a very specific impact on the video. If you're adding a dissolve from one scene to the next, it could also mean that there's a passing of time. You can introduce a montage with dissolves. So there's all these like psychological traits that transitions have that a lot of people don't even really think about. They just kind of toss them in, and it's like, all right. So yeah, that's definitely something to not do. Make sure you're being very purposeful with honestly anything, even outside of transitions, anything that you do in an edit. Since we're talking about editing, but mainly in film, you need to have a purpose. So nice. When it says keep it up, your content helps me learn. Nice. I'm really happy to hear that. Sharu asks, how do you decide to use transitions to relate with the story? So there's a lot of different ways because it's honestly, it goes to the filmmaking language, and it's so broad at this point, and it's also very open to experimentation, interpretation. So it really is up to you, but the way that you should see it, just trying to keep it very generic so you can apply it to most use of transitions, is that um, you need to kind of even playing with them and just seeing the effect that it has on your timeline, the way that it breaks up the flow. Um, I think there's some great directors that use transitions, such as Edgar Wright. And if you want to get specific examples of how transitions can be used in story, I would look at his body of work. It's insane, and he's able to use a transition and make you laugh from using that transition. So that's the thing. There's if you're using a smash cut type of thing, or if you're using an abrupt kind of transition, again, it can make your audience feel abrupt. It could really bring you in closer to a scene. There's just a lot of ways that you can use transitions. So it's definitely just see whatever makes sense for your story. See whatever works, what doesn't work. What is the transition communicating? I think is the main question that you should ask yourself. Like, if I'm doing a dolly in, obviously I have a very specific reason of why I'm dollying into a scene. Well, that's the same thing. If you're using a transition that zooms in, what is your reasoning behind that? Why are you adding that fancy zoom in? One of the ways that I've used that type of transition is if I'm going into a monitor, for example. I've used that type of zoom in, or maybe outside of story. And I'm sorry if this is turning into a bit of a rant, but I think it's good stuff because this is something that a lot of people misuse, I think. And sometimes I'll see these kind of transitions, especially with these handy camera transitions, and they're not only outside of the story, they're just used wrong in terms of movement. You might have a shot that's going from side to side, and then another one that's going in another whatever direction. And they're using a zoom in where they could just use a whip pan, which would make a lot more sense in carrying through that motion. Um, a lot of other times there could be like a pulling out scene, like we're moving away from a subject, and then there's like a zoom in transition to lead to another scene where a zooming out transition would make a lot more sense. So I think that is that's some of the things that you should keep in mind is story and movement too. Those are the two main players with transitions. Ahmed asks, do you consider yourself a professional editor? Uh, I mean, yes. I always feel weird about calling myself professional in anything because it feels like I'm giving myself praise. But I've been doing it for quite a bit. I've worked on with some pretty major clients, so I guess that means that's what that is. I don't know. Yeah. Um. All right. So if you have any other questions, let me know now or forever hold your peace. And yeah, it's been time flew. It's already 40 minutes from one disaster to the next. Time flew, and I still had a good time. It's always good talking to you guys and having this live interaction. So yeah, hopefully the next one will be a little bit more organized, and yeah, It says, it says nice, confident. Yeah, I'm not the best at any of that stuff, any of that self praise. But I guess I'll call myself a filmmaker, a pro editor, whatever, whatever. All right, guys. So with that confident note, I'm gonna end this live stream, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something from it. Hopefully it wasn't too bad and too hard to follow with all of the technical troubles that we've had today. Join us tomorrow. I don't know why I said us. Join me tomorrow for the main episode. It's how to make your edits flow. We're talking about every bit of trick or anything that I use and that I think about when I'm making cuts, when I'm trying to smooth things out in an edit and just making things flow. That's going to be, I mean, that episode's going to be really, really cool. I'm really excited for it. There's a ton of information packed on it. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And also, I will see you in the next live stream where we're going to be breaking down the promo scene that you kind of got to see in this one, and we're going to be talking about some sound design choices that you can make that can even really elevate your transitions. All right, guys. With that, I will conclude the live stream. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.